My name is Ben, and I'm going to be sharing with you a personal story on one of my favorite games of all time, Golden Sun, the original game for the Game Boy Advance, released. I don't even remember when it was released. I remember distinctly getting this game from my dad, who at the time was a video game manager here during this point in our lives. And he came home from, I'm not even sure if it was some kind of gaming press conference, but he basically told me, son, you need to get this game. You need to play this game. So I was able to get it for you, and I didn't even ask because I wasn't back then. I didn't look at gaming stuff. I didn't really pay attention to it. So in this instance, I was hooked on the game. It became one of my favorites. I would always revisit. I would always replay it at least once a year, and even more so when the sequel came out for it a couple months later. But unfortunately, around that time, I started to slip away from video games. I became more of a sports person, and games they did take a back seat. I didn't bother with a PlayStation. I didn't bother with the PlayStation 2 that much. I didn't bother with the GameCube or the Xbox. I played them whenever I went to friends' house, but never really gamed that much. Flash forward to about 2007 fall. At this point in time, Golden Sun for me had been lost. There had been stolen from me by I don't remember how it was stolen. Or at least I assumed it was stolen. And entering fall that year, so last year of high school, one more year to college, and all this other fun stuff. And it turned out that fall would be one of the most tumultuous moments, or at least at this point in my life, one of the most tumultuous points in my life that rocked me to the core. First, it was the fact that I had suffered basically a career-ending knee injury. I was never going to play college football, so I had torn all three of my ligaments in one of my knees, resulting me in missing my final games as a senior in high school, which, as a Texas high school football player, that's awful. And so then my girlfriend dumped me a short couple of weeks afterwards because she thought she had been thinking about if we were together by the time next year rolled around, she didn't want to be in a long distance relationship, and she didn't want to try. So you have both my knee gone and my girlfriend left me, and then you think that'd be over with, but unfortunately, one of the closest people to my life, my aunt had passed away. And I was at a point where I did not want to be on this earth anymore. I felt like a ghost that people would come up to and say, I'm sorry for everything, I'm sorry for this, I'm sorry for that, and nothing against those people, but sometimes it's the last thing you want to hear. And I never came close to it, but I felt like it. It felt like everything was over with and there was no point. The love of my life was gone. My football career was done, and now my aunt I can no longer see her again. And then one Saturday, I was watching college football because that helps the pain. I found my copies of Golden Sun 1 and 2. And at the time, I still have my Game Boy Advance, luckily, my SP, and I played it for the first time in about 5 years. And and that, as silly as it sounds, made me smile again. It reminded me of all the good times I had of going through the world and finding all the things. It made me smile again for the first time in months at that point. I felt like I had a purpose. I became the character. I was ecstatic. I wanted to continue, and that game, I want to say, saved my life mentally. It came at the right time. It reminded me that there's still things I can do. no matter what comes your way, you gotta keep pressing forward. You can't go back. There is no going back. You gotta look forward, and you know, obviously people tell you that, but sometimes you need an external message. That for me was Golden Sun, and because of that, Golden Sun will always forever and remain with me. One of my favorite games of all time. It helped me through an extremely tough time like nothing else could. So in that sense, thank you for listening to my short story, and that'll be all. Thank you.